I'm Pete McOnie, the Business Engagement Manager at AMRC Northwest. If I could have the next slide, please. What am I going to run through today over the next 15, 20 minutes or so with Q&A session at the end. I'm going to chat a little bit about the AMRC, the Advanced Manufacturing Research Centre that is based in the Northwest, a little bit of an overview of what we do. Then we're going to look at a really exciting project. A really exciting project, which is the new building update. I'm just going to run through a little bit about our new site at Samlesbury. Some of you may be aware of this, some may not. And then within the framework of today and yesterday and the whole event, I'm just going to touch on a little bit on how we can help contribute to net zero. And many people do in many ways. And like many people, I probably don't fully understand how well we contribute or how poorly. And then the final bit of today, I'm just going to talk a little bit about supporting innovation. The overview for today is about innovation and what that is and how we can support innovation in Lancashire and the Greater Northwest. If I may have the next slide, please. So the AMRC, Advanced Manufacturing Research Centre in the Northwest. We're currently based in Preston, and we use a UCLAN site, as I'm going to mention in a minute. We're moving to Samlesbury in the autumn. We're a world-leading advanced manufacturing R&D resource. We act as a demonstrator for technologies. We support the adoption of technologies, specifically around Lancashire SMEs. But I get a little bit worried about this because I think technology for some people can be a bit daunting. So I believe that part of our role is to encourage adoption by making it accessible, demonstrating how it can work, what the benefits are, often cost reduction, efficiency improvements. And sometimes people can be a little bit wary of. Research indicates that for SMEs, and we support SMEs, we've supported over 180, 190 now in the last couple of years in the Lancashire region. Some of the key areas, key factors about non-adoption of technology, and let's make no bones about this. If we don't adopt technology, the rest of the world will, our competitors will, and we can be left in their wake, and that's not where we want to be. So lack of time is a major issue. Fear of the unknown, what is it? Sorry, my battery's just indicated it's going low. Fear of the unknown, so what's happening? What is it? What is this technology? So we can help by researching on the company's behalf and support them into the world of technology. And to do this, we have quite a number of specialists in the house with different specialisms, which I'll come to in a minute. And often the work that we do leads to grant funding so that organizations can then go forward with the adoption of technology and on the basis of being funded by other organizations. So it's we help in a number of ways and support SMEs specifically in Lancashire to drive forward into the technological revolution. I think it's IR 4.0. So if I may go on to the next slide. So some of the technologies that we support, we have a section on battery pack assembly. That's about connection of batteries, and that encourages more efficient use of power. As all of us are well aware, electric cars are the thing, and there's the drive forward to improve the technology around those other vehicles, and those be spin-offs from that. Additive manufacturing, we've done a lot of work on this, and this is one of the underpinning themes around this is the reduced waste reduction. So instead of working from a huge billet and cutting bits out, you use far less materials to create the same finished product. Robotics and automation, one of the technologies we support, leading to less waste, less reworks, less scrap, hopefully. And then linked with that is the machining section that we have to use your machines more effectively. Some people drive forward in technology and think we need a new machine. You don't always need to do that. It's quite often making better use of what you have. There's nothing wrong with legacy machines. We can extract data from them, and that's a different topic. Make them run more efficiently first. Digitalization of manufacturing processes, so you have less paper. When it comes time to have an accreditation review, you've got someone coming in, an external, to see if your accreditation is still valid. Filing, going through piles of paperwork and files and lever arch box files and this sort of thing. Digitalizing, less paper. Discrete event simulation, that's a really, really interesting one. This is about using your resources in an effective way, in the sense of where you position your machines, where you position your people, what goes where, what's the most efficient process flow for your product. And to be honest, from our perspective, we support technologies, but other priority areas for companies, we work with them. Our approach is very much, what's the problem? Let's see if we can help you. Not, what technology do you want? Because many don't know what they need. They don't know what they don't know. So if I may have the next slide, please. Just supporting that. And everything we do, as I've just gone through, there's a carbon slant. And there's a key thing here around the carbon slant. And I think Miranda would have mentioned this earlier on. She's certainly a strong advocate of this. Reduced carbon, better use of resources often reduces your costs. This can add to your bottom line. £1 saved on your electricity bill is £1 on your bottom line. So around those sort of things, just some of the other technology, the Internet of Things, the connection of connecting machinery and warehouses and physical infrastructure, less waste power, less wasted power, I do apologize. Tighter controls all leads to reduced waste, reduced costs, and a more efficient or more effective carbon footprint or lower carbon footprint. Machine learning and AI, automating decision making. I'm not a fan of that phrase. This is more about automating the process to provide you with the information to make the best decisions that you can. And this, again, reduces waste. Robotics, as I mentioned earlier on, less waste, less reworks, and often less travel. Because if you produce waste, sometimes somebody has to jump in the car and go and see an angry customer and sort something out, get the items sent back, rework them, scrap them, whatever they need to be done. And if we can cut that out, save costs, improve carbon footprint. 3D printing, mentioned earlier on, less swarf, less wasted material, often reduced or speedier prototype iterations. Many people are working on prototypes, etc., and it needs to be quick. The faster, the better. First to the market, or as an old saying goes, first up, best dressed. So reducing your prototype iterations, and often things can be printed overnight, so you do it much more quickly, etc., etc., etc. And autonomous vehicles, that's a specific area where an important application of machine learning generally. And some of this basic information is again from the Global Pandemic UK Economic Outlook in 2020. So next slide, please. Oh, where did we jump to then? Sorry. Okay, right.
That might be me, Peter.
That's absolutely no problem, sir. Absolutely no problem. I thought my brain had fell out. So just in a brief little nutshell, today we've been working with 170, probably 180, 190 now. The organizations we predominantly deal with, they must be an SME, which is the ERDF definition, turnover less than 44 million, less than 250 employees, and based in Lancashire. That's the paid for service, paid for by the European Regional Development Fund that we support in Lancashire. And just as a little bonus, there's a little bog off going here, buy one, get one free. For companies we haven't worked with previously for this year, and this year only, we can often offer 2 assists, both funded. Okay, may I go on to the next slide, please? Now, this is one of the exciting bits. I mentioned earlier on, we're based in Preston, and we're moving in mid-September to a brand spanking new building. This is an artist's impression of the building in Samlesbury. For those of you who don't know, it's not far off the M6. It's between Preston and the Blackburn Road, opposite the infamous KFC, apparently, and that'll make sense to some people. It's on target for opening in mid-September, and we hope then to open our doors to all you lovely people and more in some point in October. So if we have the next slide. Thank you. This is just a little view of internally. It's probably not as clear as I would like it to be. That's not your fault, that's ours, I apologize. But it does give a feeling of the huge space that's available. It's a fantastic site. I had a hard hat visit a couple of weeks ago, and they've got the cladding virtually completed outside. The glass is being put in. It's an absolute game changer for Lancashire, which I'll come to in a second. So if I may have the next slide. So the new building, amongst other things, will be a low carbon smart building demonstrator, demonstrating technologies that I would suggest were touched on earlier on, probably by Miranda in her presentation. So if you can go on to the next slide, please. So the low carbon demonstrator that we are building in Samlesbury is there for a number of reasons. It demonstrates a range of retrofittable smart technologies. Now, there's some clever thinking gone into this. Rather than build a new building and as part of that process include smart technology and then say, look what you can do with technology, well, people may turn around and say, well, that's all wonderful, but you built the factory that way. So a decision was made to build a factory and then retrofit the smart technologies. So people can see in real terms how this technology can be adopted in legacy buildings, in some of the older mills and some of the other buildings that are dotted around Lancashire. It's to demonstrate how smart buildings interact with people, systems, external elements, the weather, etc. Possibly using phones or some form of system to come into the building, which links in with everything else. And demonstrating low carbon methods of manufacturing as part of our demonstrate, not just of technologies, but of low carbon. The two things just join, amalgamate perfectly there. And we're also collaborating with Red Cat, which I'm sure Miranda mentioned earlier on, to provide exhibition space. So no low carbon products can be shown. And I'm working with a couple of companies at the minute. One, some of you may have seen these things, like big tubes that come through the roof. From the roof, on the roof, there's a small dome which gathers light. That light is then dispersed at the other end of the tube inside the building. So you have natural light within a building, and there's an adaptation to that, which I'm not going to mention, which is really exciting. And I think that'll be one of the low carbon products locally manufactured that we'll be able to demonstrate. So if I may have the, thank you. So the new building in Samlesbury, it will be continue as we are, the Advanced Manufacturing Research Centre, helping SMEs. And I'll be honest with you at this point, the Advanced Manufacturing Research Centre, it's the right name, but sometimes might give the wrong impression. We're there to help anybody. We help SMEs with one person, 2 people working there, to SMEs who employ 220 plus and are turning over 30 million. So whilst it is about advanced manufacturing, it is the advances within the organisation. It's not just technologies for the big companies who have huge budgets to spend on these sort of things. It's for Mr. and Mrs. X who operate in the backwaters of some small industrial estate off the M65. We'll be demonstrating advanced technology anyway, and then looking at how it can work for people. Things like robots we have there. We've got some fantastic stuff. We've got a metal, the first of its type, MELD 3D metal printer, additive manufacturing printer, 3D printer, first in Europe, it's only 3 in the world. The building will also be a low carbon smart factory demonstrator. It will also encapsulate a 5G enabled test bed. Now I'm just starting to pick up on 5G. I must admit I'm a little bit naive to what this actually means, but having had a conversation with a couple of our in-house specialists, some of this is really exciting stuff, the difference that this can make, having that data in real time. And it's also going to be used as a meeting and seminar space. Oh, hello. There we go. As a meeting and seminar space, we've got fantastic meeting facilities, rooms for 20, 40, 60, 100, 120. Fantastic opportunity, and we'll be opening our doors and welcoming people as we hit autumn. Underpinning all of this, it's a Lancashire asset. It's not just the AMRC. It's also about the local enterprise partnership and the local council to drive in with investment to attract other organisations to come and join us. If I may have the next slide, please. So we've looked a little bit about carbon, low carbon footprint. We've looked a little bit about what AMRC can do. We've looked at our fantastic new building. Oh, can you go back one there, please? And the other area I just want to touch on in this short presentation is about innovation. Now, I looked up innovation And there are as many definitions of innovations as there are innovative people, I think. So I took the UK Department of Innovation and Skills, Innovation and Successful Exploitation of New Ideas. And this can include research. This is how we can help. We can help transfer ideas onto digital systems like CAD-CAM. We can work on organizations with proof of concept. Might this work in theory? Does it work? Then take them through the process of prototyping it. Yes, it does work. Testing out the prototype, and then even design for manufacture. We can help at all of these stages. For example, we've been working with a company. This chap had an idea about a new design for a putter head for those golfers amongst you. And we worked on proof of concept and worked on a 3D printed prototype. I'm not entirely sure it'll reduce anybody's handicap, but it gives you bragging rights on the putting green when you're out there in the balmy summer afternoons or evenings that we now have. So if I may go on to the next slide. So innovation, new methodology. If you click for me, please. Sorry, I tried to take this out, but I couldn't. And again, and again. Thank you. So innovation, new methodology. We work with a company, Pendle Doors, and following the very, very sad Grenfell catastrophe, there were already regulations in place. And one of the keys to fire doors is that the angles that the pins go into the door, the nails, the pins, is absolutely critical. There is a designated angle. And what we did, we went from the left-hand picture to the right-hand picture. The left-hand picture was what they had in place then. The right-hand picture was a 3D printed jig to put the pin in the right place 100% of the time. We also, as part of that process, create the CAD drawing. The customer has that so they can repeatedly make these jigs as they start to wear and need replenishment. If I can go on to the next slide, please. Another innovation is fit for purpose software. So this innovation isn't about new to the world, new to the market. Innovation is about new to you. What have you got? Can you do things differently? So Edward Deming's the doyen of lean manufacturing, etc. Without data, you're just another person with an opinion. So new to company digital processes, worked with a couple of companies on here. What we did was identify their requirements. We researched the options for them to digitalize their process and then created an independent report with recommendations. If I may have the next slide. And then innovation on new processes. So we can look at initial diagnostics with an SME to look at what new processes may be a benefit to them. We've done this with NIS, a well-known local company, and with Mike England Timber, a fantastic company with an amazing attitude regarding quality. I just love that company. So they can have, we can look at new processes, personalized reports specific to their organization. Then we can take the next step and start to create a simulator so they can have a look and plan things and change things around and play a little bit. The key to this is defining your requirements in the first instance. Some fascinating projects. Those were definitely looking at new processes. If I may go on to the next slide. New working practices. What do you do? What can you do different? Sometimes that critical friend, that third eye. So the key around this is analyze your processes. Don't digitalize your current processes. Get your processes right first and then think about digitalizing, then think about your new working practices. So we, AMRC, as we did with Melbeck and Star Tissue, we analyzed the processes, researched the options, and then create an independent report. Now, this is not just about Welbeck and Star Tissue. This is a company I came across this week. There's only 4 of them there, very small company. They've got this fantastic opportunity to grow. They desperately need to look at their processes. That's their opinion, not mine. So we're going to go in and have a look at their process and see how we can help them with the lowest cost option we can find. We think we can help them with a spend of under £2,000. We're not talking about 50, 100,000 pounds or £1 million worth of investment. We're talking about £2,000, which is big money to small companies. So if I may have the next slide. So another option that we can support with an innovation is new machinery. It's not new to market, it's new to you. So again, we can research options on machines. Somebody might be looking at a machine. We can research those and provide an independent report. We did this with a couple of organizations mentioned on the slide there. And again, it's about getting the information to make the right decision. go back to Deming's comment. It's about data. The data doesn't have to be digital data. This can be us researching and providing that information. I may go on to the next slide, please. Oh, little numbers appeared on that one. That's very clever. Next one. And again, thank you. So one of the other areas of innovation is connectivity. What can I get from what I've got? If I connect things together, machines, processes, will it work better? I've got Sage in accounts. I've got XYZ ERP system running through behind that. I've got MTW system. I'm just making these initials up, by the way, so I don't sort of promote anybody, which manages our stock, which feeds into the ERP, which doesn't talk to the Sage, all these sort of things. So joining these things together, Internet of Things, lovely title. I have no idea how you would define that, but connectivity is often about what are your options? What can we integrate? And sometimes you can be, sometimes it can be surprising what you can integrate just by a little bit of work here, a little bit of work there, and it doesn't have to cost huge amounts of money. And again, the independent report, we did this with DA Technologies, lovely, lovely company. I love working with them. And they've got some fantastic stuff going on, built on integration. It's changed their company. If I may see the next slide. Oh, right. So one of the common themes throughout the examples I've been given has been this phrase, independent report. And that's one of the key things from AMRC. We are not linked to, we don't have associations per se with other organizations in the sense of researching topics. We provide an independent report. Our independence provides a couple of advantages for the customer. One is we can be that critical friend. We're not criticizing you, we're just saying these are options available to you which you may not have known about earlier on. And sometimes as you're going through a new process, the person who's invented this new product was looking at the new system. It's theirs, it's their baby, and they're quite rightly proud of it. And sometimes that can make people a little bit blinkered. So sometimes we have to sort of say, have you considered this? This might work better. And as I mentioned earlier on, we don't know what we don't know. But by supporting the company through that journey, it could take us to who knows where. It comes out with hopefully the right product. And part of our role is to help guide people through that. So we've looked a little bit about who we are, what we do, our future plans, how we can support manufacturers to make a difference, carbon footprint wise and innovation wise. I hope it was reasonably interesting. I hope none of you have nodded off or zoomed off for a cup of coffee. So at that point, I'd just like to ask if you have any questions.
Peter, thank you.
Thanks, Darren.
Oh yeah, very well. That's a great update. I've actually got a question. There isn't any question in there. Chris is just, while I'm talking to you, Chris is just going to get loaded up the next presentation. So
no problem at all, yes.
On the screen. But I've got a question. You know, your 3D printer, you said it was the first in Europe that could print with metals. Is that
no,
correct?
it's a meld machine. There are a number of metal printing, 3D printing machines. This is the first of its type.
Oh, right.
It's the way that it works. It basically uses bar stock and gives much more residual strength to the finished product than some 3D printed metals. Fantastic bit of kit.
Yeah. Is it true then that you can print in the 3D with any material as long as it's a liquid form that goes into a solid form? Is that correct?
No. And I'm no expert on 3D printing. You can't 3D print everything. Often it's powders.
Oh, right.
There can be other materials as well. So I don't want to sort of set any hairs running off here and go down the wrong track. But 3D printing, honestly, it's so fast changing. It literally is. It's one of the fastest changing technologies in the world at the minute, and many options are available. The key is to ask us. But one of the things that we do at AMRC is we're a catapult, and we link in with other catapults. And there's a composite centre in the southwest. And if we're unsure about whether a material is 3D printed, we can go to them and dip into their expertise on our customers' behalf and bring that into the equation. Great question, though.
Yeah. One last one for me, and I think we're nearly on time anyway.
I think we're not far off.
What's the most expensive material you 3D printed with?
Oh, you know what?
Anyone?
I genuinely don't know the answer to that. I know some of the composites are enormously expensive,
Yeah.
but I wish I could answer that, Darren. I really wish I could.
I just wondered if someone's bought in a gold bar, melted it down, and asked you to print out something in 3D from
It
like
might not.
like a golf club head.
It might not. It might not make it out the other end of the building, to be honest, Darren.
Okay, that's great. That's
Lovely.
great.